welcome back to the show. Normally on Wednesdays, we have Kurt Helin join us to talk NBA, but we had to do things a little different today because Diana Rossini from The Athletic will be joining us tomorrow from the Super Bowl festivities. So I said, let's just move Kurt up a day, and he was so kind as to accommodate us. You're the best. You know that, Kurt? You are the best.
I have no life, and I'm here to make you happy, Jason.
But it actually, the timing works out real well because we've had the breaking news both last night and early this morning on the whole James Harden situation, which did you see this coming? For people who don't know, James Harden, we talked about it in the big story, the talk between him and the Clippers about moving him here before the trade deadline, and the two sort of working that out together. I mean, a week ago, we were talking about this team potentially making a run at the playoffs and being one of those dangerous teams, and now we're just blowing it up, Kurt?
Welcome to James Harden's world. How should I put this? It was nobody. I don't think people really saw this specific thing coming, but it's not. A, it's not out of James Harden's character, and B, the Clippers were expected to shop him and Kawhi Leonard this season. Like they want to get out of this era. Those guys are on the back end of their careers. They want to kind of pivot. Harden saw that coming, and this was all about money. Look, the sources I talked to last night, I was at the Clipper game, which was an interesting experience. I don't think I've ever been on Media Row and seen fewer people actually watching the game than last night. Look, Harden has a $42.3 million player option for next year, but only 13.3 is guaranteed. And he's like, hey, Clippers, you got to pick that up, and I want to talk about a longer term, and in the summer we'll talk about that. But I want assurances you're going to do that. And they said no. And he's like, all right, well, then we got to find me a new home. Because he's James Harden, he wants to get paid. And I think that's the key here. It's not about him going to a contender. It's not about chasing a ring. It's where can he go to a team that is going to pay him, maybe not 42, off the next contract, but that he can get multiple big years still as he ages.
So he's okay going to a bad, like even a worse team than he's on now.
I think he would prefer not to. Look, he does want to chase a ring. There's a reason.
That's what I thought.
Look, Harden's people leaked the Cleveland thing, right? So, there he goes to a contender, plays. We can debate how well that goes, but goes to a team who theoretically should be in the mix in the East and has been playing like it lately, and they've been doing it without Garland, who's injured. And the Clippers, look, you got to take on 2 years and $87 million after this one in Garland, but he's 26 and he's an all-star, and if you think you can get him healthy, they'll look at it.
Kurt, you took the words right out of my mouth. That is the most James Harden thing ever, to request a trade while your team is actively playing a game. But I'm curious from a trade deadline perspective, obviously, as we approach it within, 54 hours as we're sitting down to do this, how does the James Harden news, if at all, affect the Giannis market going into the trade deadline?
It affects one team in particular. Minnesota has come hard for Giannis, really hard. The problem is the Bucks want picks, and Minnesota literally has zero they can trade. Like they can give you some swaps, but they can't actually give you picks. So they're looking to upgrade, and they need a point guard. And James Harden is a very good point. Look, James Harden would set their passing forward. Like there's certain questions you've got about his defense, but he steps in and their ball movement could get better. Like he is a gifted passer. So Minnesota has jumped into the fray, and that's one team where, look, if Minnesota was coming hard for Giannis, but they can't get him and they can get Harden, do they just pull the trigger on that? It'll be interesting to see how that kind of spins out. But that's the one team where there's a real crossover, because Golden State and Miami are not going to get in the James Harden business.
Most teams build arenas and stadiums, and they usually line it up and sync it up in such a way that they're good when they get new arenas and stadiums, like what the A's are doing right now. Think what you want of the A's. They're building something so that when they move to Vegas in 28, they're going to be a really good team. It feels like the Clippers are doing this ass backwards, where you go and build this Intuit Dome, you got the wall and all that, and they're just going to blow this up and expect fans to come out and pay the freight for a rebuilding period in Los Angeles?
The plan was, well, two things. The plan was a couple of years, right? Like they were going to be solid for a couple of years with Kawhi and Harden. And they've been, like last year, there was a stretch where they were the best team in basketball and you kind of started to buy into them and then, everything fell apart. And it felt a little bit the same this year. We're like, hey, they're starting to get it together. There's potential on this team. So they haven't been bad, but this was always kind of like everybody saw the looming thing. The hope was that they were going to have all this money freed up in 2027, the 2027 plan, when in theory, Giannis Antetokounmpo and, well, he's not going anywhere, but Nikola Jokic and a few other big names are potential free agents. And one of them, they could get in on one of them, right? And they could get in on this deal. That was kind of the grand plan. It's just Harden just accelerated the timeline really fast on them.
Is there any chance Kawhi gets moved here before the deadline?
No,
Okay.
not before the deadline. But again, but first off, he's the guy to actually want. Is for all the injuries, that guy is an absolute all-star snub. Has been playing all NBA level basketball. He's only missed 13 games this year, which for him is about as good as it gets. But like when he's played, he has looked like as good as Kawhi's looked since in the regular season, since maybe San Antonio. He's been fantastic.
But is he going to want to be there during a rebuild?
He's really, remember, he took a discount. He's really comfortable being back home in Southern California. He's in a good spot. So I am curious. That is a very good question. That I am curious to see play out over the summer when they can start talking about his next deal. But the plan had always been to pivot for the Clippers regardless.
Sam, I've left you with the wonderful 1 minute spot here.
Well, Kurt, we talked a little bit about Giannis earlier, so let me just get your quick thoughts in the last minute. Tons of steam over the last 36 hours on Giannis to the Bulls. Why is Jerry Reinsdorf going after another franchise player when he's shown us that all he wants to do is middle in mediocrity?
I had heard this morning that was less real. Let's put it that way. That there's not a lot of there with that one, and how much of that is driven by, hey, we tried, because the Bulls have that reputation of not making deals at the deadline and not really filling out. That there's not much there. They do have the pick. I mean, you could put together a trade that might interest the Bucks, but if you're Giannis and your goal is to win, is that where you're going?
It's a good question. There's more to get to with Kurt Helin, who's going to hang out with us. Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com is where he hangs out, and he hangs out with us next. We continue the conversation with our friend Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. Does a great job over there. Trade deadline approaching. You mentioned the Giannis stuff, so I almost hesitate to ask you this as we put this together around noon on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Does he get moved before the deadline, Kurt?
For people who don't know, the running joke between us is that every time I say something when we tape these, it spirals bad within 24 hours, which leads me to say,
hours.
Yeah, which leads me to say there's no chance that I am winning the Mega Millions lottery this week.
Let's
There's
record
no
two. Hey, let's do this. Let's just have you give two answers, and then we'll just edit it out. We'll just edit it out later. Here.
Here's what I'm hearing. There's a lot of people in the league who don't see it as logical for the Bucks to do this before the deadline. That they'd be smarter to wait, as weird as it could be in their locker room, to wait till there's better offers in the offseason. But these things have their own momentum, and it's led a couple of people I trust to say it's almost 50-50 just because they're going to want to get it done. That they might like either what Minnesota offers if they bring in Portland as a third team, or the Warriors have 4 first-round picks. Like, picks that could be good, frankly, once Curry retires in a few years. So, like, there's a theory that might just be good enough. Now, we should have a discussion about whether the Warriors should do this.
Yeah. No, don't do it.
But there's a real sense that the Bucks could just say, let's just get this done and do it at the deadline. I still think it probably, look, my bet would be into the summer, but there's a lot more momentum to, you know how trade rumors go, man. Both of you,
yeah.
Right? You've been around this long enough in every sport. logic goes out the window. They pick up their own momentum and steam, and stuff happens. So we'll see we'll see. I still think it's most likely it drags into the offseason, but momentum is built. It's its own thing now.
Sam, go ahead.
Kurt, I'm pondering over the Eastern Conference, as I think we've done really all season long, and just thinking about the news from Jason Tatum over the last 7 days, I guess it's been at this point, and looking at Boston. Do they need Jason Tatum to win this Eastern Conference this year?
The funny thing is they might not, right? Like the way Jaylen Brown has been playing, the way their bench has been playing, like the way that just, it's Derek White some nights, it's Peyton Pritchard some nights. I think they do need, if either way, they need to get help at the 5. Like they need, if they can get Daniel Gafford, who would be a great fit out of Dallas or somebody else, with all due respect to the guys they've got, like they need some frontline help, but they're in that mix. And we've discussed this before in particular. It's like, if Tatum's having doubts, which kind of have leaked out, if he's having any doubts, don't, man. Like, don't push it to come back this year. Come back next year when you're right. They retool this thing a little and you're back in the mix as one of the teams to beat in the East. But we'll see. Like, I think that's obviously a March decision. Like, it was always going to be after the All-Star break, but I'm really curious where he goes, because I think he's torn between what his head's telling him and what his heart's telling him. And his heart's telling him what you just said, which is, look at that East, man. With me, we could beat anybody but the Wizards.
Yeah, it's true.
That's just for you, Sam.
Speaking of the Wizards, they'll take on the Knicks tonight. Knicks have won 6 in a row. The only team hotter in the East right now is the Charlotte Hornets, who have won 7 in a row. Help it make sense to me, Kurt. I mean, are they going to be like buyers at the deadline? Like, are they thinking we're going to take a run at this thing as long as their head coach doesn't keep running into LaMelo Ball and, practically concussing him?
Giving him stitches. Yeah.
Charles Lee.
First off, I thought that was a clean hit. Like, it was, he leaned in. No flag on the play. I don't think they're going to make any bold, big moves at the deadline. This kind of came out of nowhere. They're not that good, and they've still got some long-term questions, but they've got long-term questions, but they've also got Knoopel's real. Like, Con Knoopel is real. Brandon Miller is real. Like, they've got some stuff to build on for the future, and that's not a bad team in an East where, as we've been discussing, I think they could make the postseason just because there's going to be a few teams looking at their standing and going, are the play-in? With this draft, do we want to be in the play-in? I'd rather improve our lottery odds and pull the ripcord and fall back. And look, the hottest issue over the next 2 months after the All-Star break, it's not going to be aspiration. It's not going to be terror. It's going to be tanking. Tanking is going to be back front and center because it's going to get messy in the NBA.
Especially after those shots Darren Peterson hit the other night. Kurt, we got like a minute and a half, and a name that it feels like has started to fly under the radar, and maybe it's because of the lingering injury issues and the surgery questions. Anthony Davis, what are the chances he gets moved before Thursday's deadline?
Almost none. Just for that reason. Look, he's a close to $50 million salary, and he's just, you're not going to get much out of that hand situation, which there is very vague about. He may or may, he's going to be reevaluated in 6 weeks. He's not having surgery. Nobody thinks you're getting anything out of him this season, which is why the trade market for him absolutely died up. It's an off season. I would be shocked if he is a Maverick at the start of next season, but that's a summer thing.
Yeah, I wish he was. I would just like to see this thing with Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, and Cooper Flag. I really just would like, because Jason Kidd's a great coach. He's one of the best coaches in the league. I want to see this thing fully intact and find out what it could be. I feel like they owe it. I think with the whole Nico Harrison thing and trading Luka and all, I feel like they owe it to fans. I feel like they owe it to fans to show them what this could have been.
It'll look really good for the 10 games Anthony Davis is healthy.
All right, fine. Boy, that's a mic drop if there ever was one. Kurt Helin, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. Follow him around the trade deadline. Tons of great content over there with our friends over at NBC Sports. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it.
Take care, buddy.